Welcome back to the island. I'm Bombo, and I will be your skipper for the day as we go over Week 11 waiver wire ads and moves to make to stay one step ahead of your league. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to All Things Fantasy Island Pod, and drop us an email if you have a question or just want to rant. We also will optimize your lineup if you send us your team and answer any start sit questions. Sweet Tea, King, and myself are here for your team. Let's go. The Week 11 waiver wire moves to make. Week 11 waiver wire, like we said for the past couple weeks, it's getting pretty slim pickings out there for the waiver wire, especially if you've been listening to the show and you've been picking up on guys early because it's better to be early than late when it comes to fantasy football. But we do have some gems for you. We're going to let you know who to pick up, why to pick them up, and why you need to be one step ahead. We're going to start at Minnesota at the running back position. Ty Chandler. So Alexander Madison got his bell rung this past week. He's in Taco Tuesday. He's in the concussion protocol, and Chandler actually looked good. They do have a running quarterback now in Josh Dobbs there in Minnesota. And he's there on the cheap, so they're not going to mind him diving headfirst for first downs. But a starting running back needs to be on a roster. And right now it looks like Ty Chandler is the starting running back for the Minnesota Vikings. If he has a breakout performance while Madison is on the mend for concussion protocol, he could take the job. They were already starting to give Cam Akers a lot of run. It just seems like this team's trying to move away from Madison, and he always does just enough to keep the job. Maybe something like this opens the door for Chandler. You want to go ahead and pick him up. And for sure this week, if Madison can't go, Chandler can be started against Denver, who just made Latavius Murray look like OJ Simpson. OJ Simpson, the football player. Next move to make, pick up Rico Dowdle, running back for the Cowboys. And I know what you're thinking, but Tony Pollard is the workhorse there. Well, you know what? If you listen to us, we've been telling you Pollard just isn't getting it done, but the Cowboys are winning games. Some losses for the Cowboys may cause a shift in the backfield, and Dowdle has been the better runner. He passes the eye test. He's good in pass protection, and he would also get elite usage if for some reason Pollard were to miss some time. But it still looks like, at least from what I'm seeing, a backfield shift or at least a 60-40 split could be in the future if the Cowboys start to take some losses or start to not be able to toss the ball around as easily as they have. Not only that, but in this situation on this offense, like we said, you want to buy into all these guys that are a part of this offense because if someone goes down, he'll step right in. This guy shouldn't be available. Pick him up. At the wide receiver position, we'll go to Los Angeles, formerly San Diego, for the Chargers. Quentin Johnston, wide receiver. And I know he was drafted in a ton of leagues, but we saw that ownership drop just because he just wasn't getting it in this offense. And Keenan Allen is a target monster. You know that it was looking like Quentin Johnston may have been the fourth option, but injuries and him just getting more familiar with the offense have brought him right here on this list. He was probably dropped in your league and then picked back up and then dropped a few times. But you know what? Keenan Allen can't catch every ball in SoFi. Quentin Johnston has the potential to be a late bloomer if he gets on the same page with Herbert. And my gut is telling me, and this is just my gut, and my coconuts are out there. I think the Quentin Johnston blow up game is coming soon. He already got his first touchdown this past week. And if you saw the body language on the sideline when he got that touchdown, everybody was crazy happy for him. They want to get him involved in this offense. He just needs to utilize his hands more because he's doing a lot of body catching. And, you know, if he's going to be the next Mike Williams, he's going to have to show those hands. Make sure if he's on your waiver wire in your league, you pick him up. And staying in SoFi with the Chargers, tight end Donald Parham, same thing. The same thing that I said about Quentin Johnston applies to Donald Parham. Just sub out Gerald Everett for Keenan Allen. He's coming off of 4 catches and a touchdown. He's huge. The guy's like 6'8", so he is a huge red zone presence. And that alone in a pass-happy offense means you should pick him up. That's just how it is. I know that Gerald Everett's dealing with some injuries, and it just looks like maybe Parham may be the future of that position as this offense tries to exactly find out where they're at. But I tell you what they're doing. they're in shootouts because their defense can't stop a nosebleed. If they're going to be throwing the ball a ton, which they are, you want a part of this offense that is going to be catching touchdowns. And it seems like that's all this guy does. Pick Donald Parham up. And for moves to make in week 11, do something that I like to call picking up the scraps after a bye week. So a lot of us don't want to carry two kickers. We'll drop a kicker when that kicker's bye week comes up, pick up an available guy. But if you're a savvy owner, if you know how to play the wire and you know how to plan for these things, you could be picking up a kicker that is going to be ranked higher than the kicker that you're already running with. So pay attention to who is getting dropped in your league so that you can be early and pick them up. Plus, when it comes for checking for kickers and defenses or guys coming off IR, pay attention to your app because default player settings when you're looking at available players are already set to the projections for the week. If you can navigate your app and stay ahead, you can look for what they're going to be projected for the rest of the season or what they've already done. And that's how you get the guys that aren't at the top of the page when you're looking for available players. Check for kickers, defenses, and guys coming off IR. Next move to make in week 11 for savvy owners, make a deal if there's a guy that's burning a hole in your lineup. Let me explain. If you can't choose because you think you got two studs, you have a Sam Laporta and a Mark Andrews, and you're like, oh, which one of these guys is going to go off? And you don't want to go the two tight end, one in the flex type deal. Then if you're stuck between two guys, trade them both for a stud or something like that. But stop giving yourself the headache and make a move. Reduce that issue with two guys who may start to adding a guy on your team that is a must start, set it and forget it. Keep them in. And on that same note, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to get a little toxic sometimes in the fantasy football world. Uh, Maybe save this type of move for guys you're more familiar with, and don't play with guys who may break your thumbs or have their mortgage on the line, but be exploitive. Or I like to say, throw in some money on Skid Row. If you are 7-2, maybe even 10-0, if you're one of these teams that is sitting high on the rankings and you got a monster of a squad, then go after those teams that are hurting, that need to make a desperate move because the playoffs are coming at the end of the month and they don't see any hope. Maybe throw them one of your players that's just been balling out on your bench and maybe package them up with somebody else and take that last bit of talent that is on their team. I know that there's probably multiple teams in your leagues that are like that. And if you're sitting pretty, don't be afraid to slum it a little bit. Talk to some of those loser teams and see if you could pick the meat off the bones and whatever's left of their team, and maybe give them a little bit of help on the way. But of course, that help is disguised because you don't want to see their team blow up. You want to make your team a monster, a juggernaut. How do you do that? You got to be exploitive. Sorry, desperate teams make desperate moves. It's time to make one of those teams make a move. Playoffs are coming at the end of the month. Now's the time. Hopefully, we were able to give you some advice on some names that are jumping out on the waiver wire for you. And hopefully, we were able to give you a little bit of knowledge and some strategy for you to do whatever you got to do to make sure your team's on top at the end of the year. And at the very least, at least you win this week. On behalf of producer extraordinaire Sweet Tea, the football encyclopedia R.W. King, I'm your boy Bombo, and we'll see you next time. We're out.